615-737-9986. I had a super texter, 5200, texted in and said, Chris, what are you smoking? It's not 77, it's about 86. And he was right. My computer hadn't updated. We only have the best technology here at the Super Talk Studios.
Yes.
As Matt can attest to as he's running around trying to fix Super Talk TV.
Uh-huh. Still getting there.
You know what galls me?
Yeah, you know what galls me? Yeah, exactly.
Jeez Louise. All right, yeah, it's 85 degrees out. We have so much to talk about on the way, including Hunter Biden. His business partner, Devin Archer, is calling him out and going to testify. Also, that China hack of Gina Raimondo, it's looking to be a lot bigger than they said that it was. We're going to cover all that on the way. Plus, you are allowed to be involved in the conversation. 615-737-9986. Don't forget, when all of this stuff is hitting the fan, Joe Biden, he will honestly tell you with a straight face that he had no idea, he had nothing to do with Hunter's business dealings. This is from back in 2019.
Have you talked to your son about any of this?
I talked to my son. We've communicated. He lives out in California. We communicated a couple times. But look, there is zero evidence of any assertion being made.
Zero evidence. Don't forget that. That's going to be the linchpin in all of this. There's no evidence. It's so Orwellian. Don't believe what your eyes and your ears are seeing and hearing, my friends, because that's what bigots do. All right? How are they going to dodge this? There's going to be a point where the straw breaks the camel's back. I don't know if it's going to happen soon. I don't have much faith in the House Oversight Committee, but I would love to be proved wrong. It's 10 a.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Now let's go to Jay Harper with the news.
It is 10 a.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got a hazy and humid Monday working. We're up to 85 degrees, a full forecast in just a couple of minutes. Taiwan is engaging in military exercises this week, but it could be causing some escalated tensions with China. Here's more from Britt Clinette. He's in Seoul, South Korea.
Taiwan is kicking off 5 days of military exercises aimed at preparing for a Chinese invasion. These are annual drills that will test Taiwan's combat readiness in case of an attack, including weaponry acquired from the U.S. And China is making its anger known over this over the weekend, sending 37 warplanes in 24 hours.
Elon Musk, he's set to make yet another change to Twitter. The social media platform could soon be rebranded as merely X.
One tech journalist questioning this latest move, tweeting, rebranding HBO to Max was the dumbest rebrand in recent history. Elon, hold my beer. And or whatever is being partaken at 3 a.m. Twitter's new CEO, Linda Yaccarino, saying there's absolutely no limit to this transformation. X will be the platform that will deliver, well, everything. But several former marketing officers at the company reportedly expressed shock at such a big change.
That's ABC's Derek Dennis reporting. Here in the Volunteer State, a boat collision in East Tennessee claims the life of a child. The two-boat crash between a 19-foot Triton bass boat collided with a 24-foot Chaparral motorboat. That occurred on Norris Lake in Claiborne County on Saturday night. A boy on the Chaparral was killed, according to the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. 2 occupants on the Triton boat were ejected, but they were able to swim to shore. The crash is still under investigation. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How you doing? My name's Chris Hand. I'm the new guy on Super Talk. Thank you for being here, hanging out with me. You can always find me off air too. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Or I guess it's X now.
Yeah.
At Chris Hand
X.
on air. It doesn't give me any confidence that Elon Musk isn't the evil genius that the conspiracy theorists say. It gives me pause. But that's another story for another time. Hunter Biden, his ex-business partner, Devin Archer, is set to testify. Now, before we get into the testifying of Devin Archer, I just want to remind you that, there's no evidence of any of this, according to Joe Biden.
How many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses.
Nothing.
Period. And what I will do is the same thing we did in our administration. There will be an absolute wall between personal and private and the government.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
Yes, he stands by that statement. He didn't do any of that. There was no influence peddling. Come on, guys. Well, the New York Post released a report late last night that Hunter Biden would dial in his father, then vice president, on speakerphone into meetings with his overseas business partners. And that's all according to testimony expected before Congress this week from Devin Archer. That's the first son's former best friend. Now, to be fair, Archer is facing jail time for his role in a $60 million bond fraud. But he's scheduled to testify to the House Oversight Committee about the meetings he witnessed that were attended by Joe Biden either in person or via speakerphone when Hunter would call his father and introduce him to foreign business partners or prospective investors. This is nothing to see here, folks. He never did any of that, and he stands by his statement.
Any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
He stands by that statement. Now, we are looking forward very much to hearing from Devin Archer about all the times he witnessed Joe Biden meeting with Hunter Biden's overseas business partners when he was vice president, including on speakerphone, said Rep. James Comer. Allegedly, one of these such meetings was in Dubai in 2015, December of 2015, after a board meeting with the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, which, of course, Hunter was being paid almost $1 million a year to be on the board. Archer, who was also a director, is expected to testify that after dinner with Burisma, the board at Burj Al Arab Hotel, he and Hunter traveled 6 miles north to the Four Seasons Resort at Jermeyer Beach. I'm butchering those, I know that, to have a drink with one of Hunter's friends. While they were there, Vladimir Pozharsky, a senior Burisma executive, phoned to ask where they were because Burisma's owner, Zolchevsky, needed to speak with Hunter urgently. And he said, "Can you give your dad a ring?" Soon after, according to Devin Archer, 2 Ukrainians joined Hunter and Archer at the Four Seasons and asked, "Can you ring your dad?" Now, at the time, the time was early afternoon on a Friday in Washington, D.C. Hunter called his father, put him on speakerphone on the table, and introduced him to the Ukrainians and introduced Joe Biden by name. He also said the words to the effect that the Burisma bigwigs need our support. VP Biden greeted the Ukrainians, but spoke only in vague pleasantries during the short call and in other such interactions with Hunter's overseas business partners. And Archer is expected to testify. Congressional investigators are expected to probe the reasons for Zolchevsky requesting the urgent phone call with Biden. Now, everybody's thinking that this is related to, the prosecutor being fired.
I said, "You're not getting the billion. I'm going to be leaving here." And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, "I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
He got fired. And this was as Shokin's probe gathered speed at the end of 2015. They ratcheted up the pressure on Hunter. Hunter's emails show from his laptop. In an email to Hunter and Archer from November 2015, 1 month before that speakerphone call, they explicitly demanded that they use their influence to close down the criminal investigation against Burisma, and we all know what happened.
Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Archer is also expected to detail other speakerphone meetings in his testimony, including a dinner at a restaurant in Paris where Hunter whipped out his phone and puts his father on speaker to impress prospective investors. All the while, they tell us that there's no evidence to any of this. None. No evidence, guys. Unbelievable. And they expect you to believe that. I mean, Democrat Rep. Melanie Stansbury complained that Republicans are literally out to grind a political axe.
They've held literally the same hearing time and time again because they'll call a witness, interrogate them, and when they don't get the answers that they want, they hold the hearing over again, and then they'll hold it in another committee. And, just this week we had this IRS supposed whistleblower hearing, and we had to vet the witnesses because the Republicans have been calling as their star witnesses folks who are known fugitives from the law, folks who are literally out to grind their political axe against Joe Biden, against Democrats, and literally have no evidence of wrongdoing or other criminal activity.
Yeah, the only witnesses are known criminals and fugitives of the law. Don't worry about the IRS whistleblower or the FBI whistleblower. That's too much, guys. But don't get into the weeds on it. Just trust us. There's no evidence whatsoever. Unbelievable. I mean, don't even try to bring up the WhatsApp messages where Hunter says, "Hey, I have my the big guy basically sitting next to me. I will make certain between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my directions. I'm here sitting waiting for the call with my father." We have so many messages, so many emails, and so many witnesses corroborating the stories, but there's no evidence. It's a big nothing burger. My goodness. I mean, even the whistleblowers agree that more needs to be done about this. Ziegler says that he demands that there be a special counsel.
So how concerned are you that James Comer was...
Oh, this was Jamie Raskin. I'm sorry. Jamie Raskin basically said that James Comer, well, he's a Russian agent.
So how concerned are you that James Comer was the chairman of the committee, was knowingly, unknowingly working with, co-opted by a foreign agent?
I'm just concerned that the House Oversight Committee, which has a very proud history with, Congressman Waxman as chair, the great Elijah Cummings of Maryland as chair, is suddenly being compromised in a really serious way. Our legitimacy is being eroded by the tactics adopted by Chairman Comer.
So it's all Russian disinformation probably, and all of the witnesses that are testifying against Hunter Biden, well, they're all trying to avoid criminal charges. Love the super text line, 615-737-9986. Got a text here from, what number was it? Oh, 8126 said, Tony Bobolinsky hasn't been charged. Why aren't they interviewing him? Fair. He jumped on Tucker basically as the laptop was happening in real time. 7170 said, Chris, I just don't understand why the Republicans don't start impeachment on Joe Biden. They need to grow some and do their job. You're absolutely right. They should. I mean, it'll never pass the Senate right now, but we should at least do something. I'm flabbergasted that we don't have any criminal charges of anything. We have the plea deal from the IRS. That's it. And they're not even going to make him fix his tax returns from 2018, which he basically admitted tax fraud. It's unreal. It's unreal. 615-737-9986. Are you shocked that the Democrats are saying, oh, there's nothing? It's a nothing burger. It's Russian disinformation. It's unreal. It's unreal. The New York Post went on to say that Hunter would basically do this as many as 24 times in the presence of his former business partner, Devon Archer, getting Joe Biden on the phone. Another former business partner, speaking of, Tony Bobulinski, he recalled Hunter offering to get his father on the phone during a meeting at the pool at the Chateau Marmont in L.A. Bobulinski said, I am also aware of the Biden family business associates confirming that Joe would take phone calls from Hunter in the middle of business meetings and would weigh in via speakerphone. But I thought he had no knowledge of any of Hunter's business dealings. He had no idea. Sitting with Hunter at Chateau Marmont before I first met Joe Biden on May 2nd, 2017, Hunter was adamant that his father takes calls at any time, no matter what his lawyers say or with gatekeepers like Kate Bedingfield playing interference. The American people don't fully appreciate yet the key role Joe Biden in the Biden family global influence peddling. I would equate it to a chairman's role in a traditional business structure, said Bobulinski. Now, I'll remind you, Bobulinski met with Joe twice in L.A. in 2017 to be vetted as the CEO of a joint venture with Hunter and his uncle Jim. And they were planning the venture they were planning with Chinese energy company CEFC, which would end up netting them millions of dollars for, no product, no service, no experience in the field. It was influence peddling. Both of those meetings happened after Joe left office as VP. Now, Archer refused to comment yesterday, but a close associate said he is testifying because he believes it's his civic duty. He has nothing to hide, no revenge to enact, nor anyone to protect other than his family, and he feels he has been handcuffed by the absurdly bogus case to remain silent. In a forum where he has immunity, he can start to at least speak the truth. So Archer believes that this criminal charge against him is to keep him quiet. Since news broke that Archer would testify before the Republican-controlled committee, his family has been receiving death threats and warnings to keep your mouth shut. I'd be worried if he shows up randomly after committing suicide via 2 gunshots to the back and jumping down some stairs. That would be a tragedy. During about 1/4 of the speakerphone calls witnessed by Archer, Hunter would introduce his father to foreigners with whom he was transacting business. But at other times, he would just speak to Joe without acknowledging that other people were listening in. So it's not clear how often VP Biden was aware that he was being used as leverage by his son. Hunter told CBS in 2021 that he spoke to his father every night. Every single night. I mean, wouldn't you want to speak to the smartest guy you know every single night? 4295 texted in and said, next tax season, I'm identifying as Hunter Biden. 5413 texted in and said, nothing will be done and we can't do anything about it but talk. It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. 4473, the Democrats can confidently state there's no evidence because all incriminating evidence will be buried by the FBI, and what remains can only be true evidence if the Democrats define it as such. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the super text at 615-737-9986. It's hard for me to hold out hope that any of this is going to, we're going to see any criminal charges, that anybody is going to be held accountable. And I feel like if we do get to the point where Joe Biden is going to be charged with any of this stuff, where he could be impeached, that he's just going to step down for health reasons. That's the next move. If something completely damning happens, he's probably going to step down for health reasons.
And you got 8877 on the super text line. Where's Mitch McConnell on all this? He needs to be removed as minority leader.
Ugh, Mitch McConnell. Well, I don't know. Oh. He's like Franklin. He's like an elderly Franklin the Turtle. I'm not a huge Mitch McConnell fan. I'm not a huge I don't know if that
I was going to say, you didn't make that too blatant.
I don't know if that was a parrot. 5190 texted in and said, so what is supposed to happen? Treason is treason. It does sound like treason. Selling influence and peddling influence all over the globe. And, you just lie about it. You lie about it till the cows come home. There's no evidence. Stop looking over there. Don't ask questions. And don't worry about all the things that Joe Biden is on record saying.
Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
I mean, if that's not a smoking gun, what is. If you can't actually look the Republicans in the straight face and say, yeah, I mean, the evidence is there. It's just that they won't act on it. It's flabbergasting. 1349 texted and said, Moscow Mitch.
Yeah, it was just
3556 said Nixon resigned over a whole lot less. Absolutely. 8877, talk about a nothing burger. Nick texted in, said we need the government as a whole gone, both sides, Republican and Democrat, terrorists and tyrannical. Absolutely. Absolutely. It seems like there's just bad guys on both sides, and they don't care about you and me. They care about money. Are you shocked? I'm not shocked. Thank you for being part of the conversation. 615-737-9986. You can call in. You can text in. You can find me off air on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. It's 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Massive protests in Israel. We'll tell you why. And a new Nashville stadium is closer to reality. Details at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? It's Chris Hand, 1025, 86 degrees outside. Hope you had a great weekend. Luckily, we don't live in the blue city hellholes that are Chicago or Philadelphia. Seriously, my goodness. 33 people shot, including 6 fatal, across Chicago so far this weekend.
Gosh.
33 people. I mean, it's like it just starts and then it keeps going. Like, I was looking at the headlines. I'm like, man, Friday, 16-year-old male. Saturday, 5 people, 49-year-old male. Sunday, 29-year-old male, rolled over vehicle, had been shot in the head. It's like you're living in a war zone in these blue cities. A man shot to death in an apparent ambush outside Philadelphia convenience store. Saturday night, a 24-year-old man was shot in an apparent attack outside a North Philadelphia convenience store at the corner of 26th and West York Street. Officials said the shooter was dressed in all black. It was an ambush. So these are the blue cities. Now here's the thing that drives me up a wall. They will never, ever use these shootings as an attempt to take our guns away. Why is that? Why do they never use the violence in these big cities as an attempt at gun control? Because they don't want to highlight them because there's already completely restrictive gun laws in these cities. It's the war over words, right? They'll bring up, a shooting that happens in a small town over and over and over, but they will completely ignore the absolute war zone that's going on in Chicago every single weekend, where literal children are being shot. Like 16 years old, that's not a male, that's a child. And the left is silent. Nobody talks about it. It's swept under the rug, and it's ignored. It's unbelievable. Anthony texted in and said it's his fatherless activity. So true. We need more dads in the home. We need more solid homes to help these kids in these communities. But they never want to address the root causes of these problems. The welfare state, incentivizing having fathers out of the home. They ignore that. And they'll never use these shootings as a way to justify gun control because it highlights their own ineffective policies, left and right. Joe texted in, and of course, they ignore the fact that the 1994 assault weapon ban did absolutely nothing. You're absolutely right. 5190 texted in, Mr. Hand, it's all noise to distract. That and everything else they do is on purpose. I mean, they don't want you to be able to defend your family with firearms. They will take any chance they get to push restrictive gun control, red flag laws, anything, except the shootings that happen in Chicago on a weekly basis. That doesn't bother them at all. It's disgusting. 33 shot, 6 fatally injured in weekend shootings across Chicago. Unreal. The left will remain silent, but I wanted to point out to you that this stuff is happening.
2613 says more condoms for the left states.
Jeez. Ay caramba. 3556 texted in. They also don't highlight it because it would be news the equivalent of a Jason Aldean song. I mean, it's absolute opposite. They'll flip out about Jason Aldean, but they'll stay silent about shootings in Chicago over the weekend. 33 shots, 6 fatally. So sad. It is now 10:29 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 86 degrees out, and we go to Jay Harper for the news.
Good morning. It's 10:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We are looking at 86 degrees and rather hazy and humid. A full forecast is on the way. The Israeli parliament today passing a law that negates the ability of the country's Supreme Court to overturn decisions made by government officials. This is causing massive protests by Israelis who say this signals an end of democracy.
I think we're mainly seeing anger, despair, but I think a lot of people we're speaking to are saying the fight goes on. That's what the chants are often saying, that the protests will not end, that people are not suddenly going to go home. They'll keep fighting because, remember, the Israeli government, this is a critical reform they've done to the judiciary, a controversial one, but they are promising even wider reforms to the judiciary beyond today as well.
That's Tom Sufi Burridge, who is reporting from Tel Aviv. Here in Nashville, $760 million. That's the amount Metro Sports Authority has approved in revenue bonds for the new enclosed stadium here in Nashville and for its construction costs. The group asked for provisions also that prioritize the use of minority-owned construction and design teams. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
And while they do this, check it out. They push forward revisionist history. Just yesterday in the state of Florida, they decided middle school students will be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1036. Hello, it's Chris Hand. That was Kamala Harris complaining about gaslighting while she gaslights. Unbelievable. If she didn't have double standards, she'd have no standards at all. Kamala Harris was actually called out on CNN for that. She was called a liar. Scott Jennings, a CNN panelist, said VP Harris's claims over the Florida curriculum, completely made up. So in case you didn't know, the Florida Board of Education on July 19th unveiled its new state academic standards for social studies. The document states that students should be taught how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Kamala told the rally that students were taught enslaved people benefited from slavery. Unreal. Well, a CNN Republican commentator condemned Harris for speaking out against Florida's new school curriculum, saying her anger at the course discussing how slaves benefited was misguided and called the scandal fabricated. The Florida Board of Education's new academic standards for social studies states that students should be taught how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Scott Jennings, a political commentator, he's a Harvard lecturer, a PR expert, served in the George W. Bush White House, said Harris was wrong and accused her of making something out of literally nothing. He said, "What is amazing to me is how little Kamala Harris apparently has to do that she can read something on Twitter one day and be on the airplane the next to make something literally out of nothing. This is a completely made-up deal." Jennings claimed the outrage over the curriculum approved by Florida governor and candidate for president Ron DeSantis was unwarranted. This is what he said. "I looked at the standards. I even looked at an analysis of the standards. In every instance where the word slavery or slave was ever used, I even read the statement of the African-American scholars that wrote the standards. Not Ron DeSantis, but the scholars. Everybody involved in this says this is completely a fabricated issue. Yet look how quickly Kamala jumped on it. So the fact that this is her best moment, a fabricated matter, is pretty ridiculous." And the left, man, they are just lining up to defend Kamala. This is Governor Murphy from New Jersey.
It's frankly offensive. She is an icon. She is an icon in the South Asian community, in the African American community, among millions of women in this country. I frankly think it's offensive, and I think at the end of the day, it's a losing strategy.
Oh, it's offensive and it's a losing strategy. Okay. It's unbelievable. So Kamala Harris lying, and CNN commentator Ron Jennings says that no, it's just Scott Jennings says it's just not true. But CNN pushed back. Another CNN commentator, Ashley Allison, said even if the citation said, well, they might have gotten, they didn't have a choice, so that is not a benefit. Slaves did not have the freedom to choose, like Ron DeSantis said. Maybe they could have become a blacksmith, not when they didn't have the choice to become a blacksmith. And so that was what Kamala Harris was saying. It's so divisive and just full of lies and propaganda. They want racial division. That's all that this shows me. They want racial division. It's unreal. It's sad. The party that claims to be for unity, the party that claims to, want to bring the country back together, the adults are back in the room. They're the ones that are screaming racism every time they get a chance. They're the ones who try to divide us every chance they get. 615-737-9986 if you want to join the conversation. John texted in. He said, Chris, the libs are disingenuous and commonly amoral. Just tired of it. Pray for godly leaders and godly voters. Seriously. 5190 texted in, said, I just can't fathom this. You're absolutely right. 0473 texted in, said, Kamala Harris is inspirationally stupid. Inspirationally stupid. It's unreal. And didn't Kamala Harris's family own slaves? Isn't that part of her history? I believe so. Weird. But she'll gaslight, she'll yell, she'll scream, and she'll make everybody, she'll just tell everybody that they're racist. That's what the left does. All right, moving on from that. Did you know that Biden's press secretary is refusing to accept a gay press award? And she's saying it's because she's in solidarity with the Hollywood strike. Yep, Karine Jean-Pierre has been honored with an award for achievement. An award for achievement. Things I never thought I'd say about Karine Jean-Pierre. She's been honored with an achievement award for press and media from Outfest. But this is so big of her, you guys. She has reportedly declined to go to L.A. and accept that award because she stands in solidarity with Hollywood actors and writers on strike. Oh, thank goodness. We stand in solidarity with the striking actors and writers. Deadline reported that the inaugural award is specifically meant to commemorate the LGBTQ plus community in the media. Yep. There's an award for that. Now, Jean-Pierre, as you know, because she always tells us, is the first openly LGBT White House press secretary. In October of last year, she shared her coming out story with the White House press corps in honor of Coming Out Day. You probably didn't hear it because nobody cared. Nobody cared at all. So Outfest is this pro-LGBT nonprofit, and it claims that they're aiming to create visibility to diverse LGBTQIA plus stories and empower storytellers, building empathy to drive meaningful social change. Outfest is thrilled to recognize the continued contributions of Karine Jean-Pierre for her barrier-breaking and historic achievement in press and media. Oh, it's historic what this woman has done. Don't you agree? 2862 texted and said, well, that just tells you she's an actor. That was one of my first thoughts, too. If you're getting an award and you're standing in solidarity, you won't accept it because you're standing in solidarity with Hollywood actors and writers. Like, so you're saying that this is all an act.
That means your agenda's aligned the same, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So funny. 0973 texted in and said, Chris, did Karine receive a participation trophy? She did. She just received a participation trophy. Oh, geez. 9707 says she'll be as attractive as the former mayor of Chicago. I feel like the former mayor of Chicago should be getting an award from these people as well. Unreal. When your identity is just that you're an LGBTQIA plus community member, like you really have no identity at all. It's super weak. And she wanted to make a bigger deal out of this award, apparently. Apparently receiving the award wasn't enough of a pat on the back. So she had to release a statement saying that she won't accept this gay award because she stands in solidarity with Hollywood. Thank you, Karine. Thank you so much for standing in solidarity with Hollywood. We really appreciate it. Another story going viral over the weekend. You may have heard about this. There's a Twitter account or an X account. It's called Law and Crime, right? So there's a viral law and crime story. Now, it's going viral because the site, this is the headline. It says, man, murder-suicide, man kills pregnant boyfriend. You heard me right, Mac.
Yeah, I'm going, what?
Yep. A 26-year-old Florida man is dead after murdering his pregnant girlfriend and then turning the gun on himself. It's a sad story. Like, you don't want to hear that. The victim has been identified by her mother as Camden Ryder, who is 8 months pregnant and transgender. But the reason that this tragic story is gaining viral notoriety is because the Law Crime Network on Twitter, or X, if you will, said this headline: man shot and killed pregnant boyfriend and then himself in murder-suicide. What does that even mean? Pregnant boyfriend? How are we just ignoring biology and we're just saying pregnant boyfriend, that's cool now? Is that okay? The Babylon Bee CEO thought that it was satire. Everybody's going after this. Libs of TikTok, Tim Pool, everyone's pointing out the insanity of the reporting that the woman who was killed by her boyfriend was in fact the man's pregnant boyfriend. So this is the insanity from the weekend. Kamala Harris is making up lies and being defended by the governor of New Jersey. Corinne Jean-Pierre, she will not accept an award for being super gay and the White House press secretary at the same time because she stands in solidarity with Hollywood writers and actors on strike. And a pregnant boyfriend was shot and killed in Florida over the weekend. Unbelievable. 615-737-9986. I really, when I do show prep, a lot of times I'm looking for these crazy headlines, but over the weekend, it was quite easy.
They were just given to you almost.
It was like a silver platter. I mean, when does the insanity stop? Every time I think I've read the most insane headline, something outdoes it. Like every single time, I'm like, we've reached peak maximum craziness. We can't get any crazier.
Yeah, can't get any weirder or more. Yeah, no, they keep topping you, Chris. And yeah, when you said that last one, I thought you misspoke or something. So I was a little like, why did he say that?
No, I did not misspeak. A man shot and killed his pregnant boyfriend and then himself in a murder-suicide in Florida. Whew. It's just so weird. It's a sad story. I don't want to take anything away from the victim or the baby because it's like that's terrifying, man. Like nobody should have to go through that. But how they can pose this as a man allegedly shot and killed his pregnant boyfriend, you have to have brain worms to believe this. Like you can't be a serious person and think to yourself, wow, I can't believe that, like if it was somebody you knew, you would be like, wow, dude, Joe killed his pregnant boyfriend. That's insane. But we're supposed to just accept this. That's supposed to be normal. 7866 said, so was that a double murder, referencing the baby? Yeah, I would say it was a double murder. But, 4886 said, I just had my chocolate lab neutered. Does that mean the dog is now a girl? I think so. 2936 said, and you gripe about poor old Barbie. I do gripe about Barbie. Listen. The reason I gripe about Barbie is because the woke propaganda sneaks in at an early age subliminally in films like that. And then down the line, we're dealing with a murder-suicide of a pregnant boyfriend. It's insane. 9061 text in said, each headline tells the past weird headline, hold my beer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't drink, but after show prep this weekend, I was thinking about it. Ty texted in and said, the LGBTQ, just call them the Alphabet Clan. Seriously. 615-737-9986. If you want to join the conversation, you are always more than welcome to call in or text in. My name is Chris Hand. I really appreciate you being with me on this Monday morning. It's 10:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
As talks begin between the UN and North Korea, just where is the U.S. service member who crossed into the communist country? And a rebranding of Twitter is apparently on the horizon. Those stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. 87 degrees out. It's getting hot, y'all. So the rebranding of Twitter. How do you feel about that, Mac? It's getting a little weird.
It's very weird, man. I don't know. I think brands would die to have something so recognizable like tweet and retweet and Twitter. I think it's quite an interesting and risky decision.
I think it would have been just as much of a headline grabber if he just made the logo red.
Yeah.
Like if he just makes the logo red, the left would lose their mind as well. I do worry about what he's trying to do with Twitter, to be perfectly honest. I worry that he's going to try to turn it into like a Weibo kind of thing, which if you're unfamiliar, it's like the Chinese WhatsApp. So like they can do payments, they can do all that, but the government can track every single thing.
Definitely see that. Could definitely see that.
I worry about where that's going to go down the road. That's just me. That's the tinfoil in me. And I've felt that way since Elon bought Twitter because I don't like his association with AI. And I don't like the fact that now Twitter or X is basically the largest AI source out there, like in real time, just accumulating all that data. He didn't buy a social media company. He bought a human data company to sharpen all of his AI tools. So I've always been a little hesitant about Elon on Twitter. And now with the rebranding, it's just, I'm even more hesitant. Is that a thing?
Yeah, extremely hesitant.
I'm extremely hesitant.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah, and it's getting weirder and weirder. I
don't know if Elon is the savior everyone claims him to be. He constantly bends the knee to China. He does all sorts of things that authoritarian governments want him to in other countries. So he can say he's for free speech here, but still a little bit hesitant. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for being here. Join the conversation, 615-737-9986. Right now, jumping over to Jay in the news on Super Talk 99.7.
Good morning. It is 11 a.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Hazy, humid, and we're up to 87 degrees on Music Row. A full forecast is just minutes away. It's still not clear where Travis King, the U.S. service member who crossed into North Korea, really is, but talks are reportedly underway to try to free him from North Korean custody. United Nations officials who run the DMZ say they are talking to North Korea's military.
North Korea is silent for now. In the past, Pyongyang has kind of used these defector cases as propaganda chips, but at the moment, we don't know his condition. We don't know his whereabouts.
That's ABC's Britt Clinette. More than 30,000 Tennesseans have been dropped from Medicaid in just 1 month's time after the state began re-verifying enrollee eligibility for the first time in 3 years. Thousands more could lose their health insurance because they just don't know that there is a renewal process. During the pandemic, the federal government temporarily paused the required annual renewal process for Medicaid coverage. Well, now that requirement has resumed, and Medicaid officials encourage everyone who's able to create a TennCare Connect account do so to keep up with the status of their coverage. The Twitter rebranding took a drastic step forward over the weekend. ABC's Brian Clark has more on what this means for the social media platform.
X is the new name for Twitter, but even the site itself is still adjusting.
Top right, it says search Twitter. So are we calling it Twitter or are we calling it X?
Journalist Chris Stokel-Walker says Musk has long been fascinated with the letter X and with the idea of a super app. Those are apps popular in China, a one-stop shop that handles everything from messaging to online banking.
He had this idea that he could take Twitter and transform it into, I guess, a US equivalent of WeChat.
Twitter's iconic bird logo's been replaced by the letter X.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. How are you? I'm doing good. A lot better than certain members of the Biden administration who continually are seeming to be hacked left and right by China. It's crazy, man. Just last week, they were saying that, don't worry about the hacks. And now, it's becoming a much bigger deal. In case you're unfamiliar, Secretary Gina Raimondo was hacked by China. Pulling up my notes right now. And she said, it's a big deal. Chinese-based hackers breached the email, now allegedly, of Nicholas Burns, the U.S. ambassador to China. So it's no longer just Gina Raimondo. Now our ambassador to China is also a victim of an attack, which was tied to the recent hack that targeted federal agencies, including the State and Commerce Department. That's what the Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday. The Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia was another target of the cyber espionage campaign. People familiar with the matter told the Wall Street Journal. For security reasons, we will not be sharing additional information on the nature and scope of the cybersecurity incident at this time. That's what a State Department spokesman told the Journal. Weird.
So just let me set it up here. It's important to remember what this was. It was an intrusion into Microsoft Cloud services on an unclassified level.
So that's what John Kirby said last week. no big deal. It was under control. It was an intrusion into the Microsoft cloud services on an unclassified level.
And this intrusion allowed the hackers to get access to some email traffic, particularly that is the main concern here of various government officials and agencies. The reason Microsoft knew about it was because we told them about it. We found it and alerted them to that. And in so doing, we also took steps immediately to minimize any further impact by this intrusion.
Okay, so are you following? It was no big deal, under control, and they've been on the phone with Microsoft customer service, essentially, so not to worry about it. And thank goodness, because the fact that it was unclassified, that means they didn't get any sensitive information, right, guys? Right?
I am told reliably by former cyber officials and other experts that 90% of the government's business is done on the unclassified, in the unclassified space. So
90% of our business is done in the unclassified space. Huh. Weird. So Microsoft needs to step up, or our government officials need to step up. So U.S. government officials aren't being hacked, but again, what's the full story? I mean, they were telling us it was just Gina Raimondo, but now we know Nicholas Burns, the U.S. ambassador to China, was hacked. Last week, it was just our girl Gina. Anthony Blinken was asked about all of this. I mean, he was called out that 90% of the information is done on unclassified networks.
they were able to learn in a novel way, which was very alarming, a lot about our business. Is there some indication that this was going on for quite some time because of how novel their approach was? That they could learn our strategy as you were approaching your important reestablishment of relations on your big trip to Beijing?
Could they have learned our strategies on your important trip to Beijing to reestablish relations? Anthony Blinken was asked. Yeah, I would think so.
So first, you're exactly right. I can't speak to the direct impact of any particular incident. I can say that the incident in question affected only our unclassified system. As soon as we actually at the State
But that's a
Department
big
detected
deal. The unclassified system is huge.
We now have an ongoing investigation that will determine the impact. As soon as we detected it, which goes back some time, we took immediate steps both to make sure that we were strengthening our protections and defenses. Of course, reported it immediately to Microsoft to make sure that they were doing everything possible.
So just to recap, China hacked top officials' unclassified emails, where allegedly 90% of all business happens. We have no idea how far and wide this is. It looks like it's only getting bigger in scope, and the American public, we're not allowed to have any real info on it. Huh. It's crazy to me. I mean, they were just saying it was just Gina, and now it's the U.S. ambassador to China. Who's going to be the next name to pop up? Well, I don't want you to panic, okay? Because we're getting to the bottom of this. I promise.
Was Gina Raimondo the highest level official to be hacked? Was she the only cabinet level official?
Secretary Raimondo?
Yeah.
As far as I know, yes, but again, I don't want to get ahead of an investigation.
So that was last week. Just Gina. Now it's the U.S. ambassador. But don't worry. President Biden took questions on this to provide some clarity into our biggest global adversary and this unprecedented email attack.
Tell us about the hacking of cabinet officials by China and the threshold of concern you have about that, sir.
Ready?
Yes.
How we get these guys now? All right.
You didn't exactly expect him to answer questions, did you? Because he ran away as soon as he was asked that. Unbelievable. But we're going to hold these guys in China accountable for this hack, right? Well, I mean, I can't imagine that we will hold them accountable for this hack. John Kirby last week said, why why would we want to ruin our relationship with China?
Even if it is a hacking group from the PRC, doesn't mean that you torpedo an entire bilateral relationship, the most consequential in the world, militarily, economically, politically, because of one act. You deal with it, you hold people accountable as appropriate, but you still got to work on making sure this relationship, this competition, and it is a competition, Jackie, is handled responsibly.
Guys, it's complicated, okay? You wouldn't understand. But things are really serious, and China is totally being cool about the whole thing. We promise. I mean, it's not like they've hacked anything before. I mean, it's not like we've caught China operating secret police stations inside the United States, all right? It's not like they're having spy balloons just travel over the country. Seriously, trust your government officials. Once they hear back from Microsoft support, they're going to update us, and everything's going to be fine. I'm waiting to find out what the actual scope of this is. I think that with all of the House Oversight Committee hearings going on, with all of the news of the day from Hunter Biden and all of his criminal dealings, I think that this is one story that is just slipping under the crack. And I think it's going to be big. I want to know what information they had, what information they gained from the hack, how they got into their Microsoft email, why our government officials are using just generic Microsoft emails and unclassified email systems in the first place, and how long has this been going on? Are those reasonable questions to ask? Can we get to the bottom of those questions? They try and push you off. They try and say, listen, guys, it was unclassified. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Not a big deal. But 90% of our business is done on unclassified servers. It's crazy to me. 615-737-9986 is the number to text in. Ty texted in and said, if it's unclassified, why can't the public know? Absolutely right. Absolutely right. 0227 said, this is part of the Biden criminal family sellout to China. Wouldn't shock me. The lackadaisical coverage of this incident leads you to believe that nobody's really looking into it. 8403 texted in and said, the Chinese hack is a false flag, so Joe and other people involved in the Biden-Hunter crime cover-ups can dump, scrub, bleach their emails, and blame it on China. That's not a bad point. Not a bad point. I mean, seriously. This is a big, big story, and they're completely ignoring it. And I often feel like the stories that they ignore are the ones we need to pay attention to the most. Why is it okay that China hacked State Secretary Gina Raimondo's email, our ambassador to China's email, and we're just going to let it go and it's not a big deal? John Kirby says, why would we want to torpedo this relationship? What relationship does China want to have with us? They're operating police stations illegally in our country. The TikTok algorithms are feminizing our youth. They're spying on you through TikTok. They're spying on our state officials' emails. And we just got to let it all go. Because we can't torpedo that relationship, says John Kirby. Why would you want to torpedo that relationship?
Even if it is a hacking group from the PRC, doesn't mean that you torpedo an entire bilateral relationship, the most consequential in the world, militarily, economically, politically, because of one act. You deal with it, you hold people accountable as appropriate, but you still got to work on making sure this relationship, this competition, and it is a competition, Jackie, is handled responsibly.
Got to handle it responsibly. We're going to call Microsoft support and get right on it. 2862 texted in and said, what about everyone in the country that uses Microsoft Outlook email? If China can hack the government, they can hack American citizens. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the text at 615-737-9986. This is a bigger deal than anybody wants to let on. 90% of the U.S. government's business is done on unclassified servers. 90% of the business. Think about what they could have learned before the trip to Beijing. Probably a lot. Probably a lot. Rooster at 3841 texted in and said, hey, Chris, have you heard of some unknown entities buying up hundreds of acres next to Travis Air Force Base in California, and the government can't figure out who it is? Well, I would say I think we probably know who it is. China. They've been buying up land everywhere in multiple states and Canada. It's not shocking. It's not shocking. It's this new type of warfare that they're waging on us. It's not going to be overt. It's not going to be in your face. It's going to be under the radar, behind the scenes until it isn't. The fact that the police station story was just buried and never discussed again is a huge red flag. Those should have been just raided by every government enforcement agency that we have and figured out what was going on. Because I doubt it was just to police Chinese citizens the way they said. Why on earth would they waste those resources? I read a story earlier this morning that migrants are being caught coming across the border that are Chinese. Weird. Just young men from China, right in that perfect age range of military male. Couldn't be anything other than looking for a better life while they hack our infrastructure, get into our emails, push propaganda through TikTok on our kids. It's fifth generational warfare. This is what we're staring down the barrel at. And our officials are just waiting to hear back from customer support at Microsoft. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing that we don't have more answers about this. 3556 said, we may already be living in China and they just haven't told us yet. That's you're probably right. You're probably right. But, hey, what do I know? I don't want to let this story die. I feel like this is a story that will be forgotten so quickly. 2862 said, under the radar, under the balloon. I think that spy balloon was a lot more than the government lets on. Yeah, you don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, letting it hover over nuclear missile silos, that's no big deal. It was a weather balloon that got off track. Take off your tinfoil hat, guys. It's no big deal. Once Microsoft customer support gets back to us, we're gonna have some real answers. But it honestly feels like Chinese sleeper cells are sneaking into the country. They're buying up land. They're establishing police departments in many major cities, and they're in the emails of our American officials. But it's no big deal.
In the meantime, we're on hold with Microsoft. Just waiting.
Just waiting to see what.
Yeah, come on.
Don't worry.
Everything's gonna be fine, guys.
Don't worry. Good thing Microsoft has some sweet holding tunes. I mean, it's so embarrassing. What can be done about it? I don't know. I wish that our government officials would actually tell us the scope of what's going on, but I believe there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. I will keep you updated as updates come in, and once Microsoft gets back to the U.S. government, we'll probably have some answers. It's 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for being here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Today is deadline day in the legal battle over barriers along the southern border, and a Hendersonville ministry has terminated one of its leaders over allegations of sexual misconduct. Those stories and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Unfortunately, this became the #1 song on U.S. iTunes. We have a problem in this country about race, and the biggest problem is we refuse to admit that it exists.
Well, don't you think that a lot of this big city, small town businesses race is about race? The cities have more black people than the small towns. And you know,
everything is racist. That was The View. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Of course, they were talking about Jason Aldean. And yeah, man, everything's racist. Can you believe how racist Jason Aldean is? And the fact that the song went to #1, it's just evidence of the racism in our country. I can't even believe it. It's shocking. And Mac, why don't you dial that up for me? Oh, man. I love it. I love it. And I love watching the left melt down over this. I mean, the narrative framing is just so apparent. People magazine, they said, Jason Aldean stands by controversial song during Ohio tour stop. What I am is a proud American. Jason Aldean, who has been accused of promoting gun violence and racism in his song, Try That in a Small Town, spoke about the tune during, that was People magazine. Vulture said, Jason Aldean's offensive portrayal of small towns. MSNBC, Jason Aldean, Try That in a Small Town YouTube music video is bloodthirsty. It's okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, left-wing media, for, just swooping in and being everyone's hero, saving ourselves from ourselves. How would we know that this song was just racist and controversial and promoting gun violence and racism if it wasn't for left-wing media like The View? I couldn't believe. I could believe that they said this last week.
Unfortunately, this became the #1 song on U.S. iTunes. We have a problem in this country about race, and the biggest problem is we refuse to admit that it exists.
well, don't you think that a lot of this big city, small town businesses race is about race? The cities have more black people than the small towns. And you know,
they're so angry all the time.
You know, Chris, and that's not necessarily true what Joy Behar asserts there, that the small towns have more white folks than black folks. I mean, many cities, many towns in the South are predominantly black, small towns.
Absolutely. But that's the.
You know, she's never been there, so, she's just shooting her mouth off.
I mean, they always put their foot in their mouth. They don't know what they're talking about at all. And it's painfully evident, the way they just label a broad group of people as racist over a song that says, please don't be violent. Or if you do that in a small town, it's you're not going to like the results. Here was Jason at his tour stop in Cincinnati. This is the controversial remarks from Jason Aldean.
I love our country. I want to see it restored to what it once was before all this bull happened to us. I love my country, I love my family, and I will do anything to protect that. I can tell you that right now.
Is that controversial? I mean, the crowd loved it.
But here's what I want to say. A lot of things out there, and one thing I love, you guys know how it is this day and age, cancel culture is a thing. That's something that if people don't like what you say, they try and make sure that they can cancel you, which means try and ruin your life, ruin everything. One thing I saw this week was a bunch of country music fans that could see through a lot of the bullshit, all right?
And they did. I mean, everybody saw through it. #1 song on iTunes. Liberal media heads exploding left and right. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the whole thing. I'm here for it. I didn't know about the song until they brought it up, and now I'm a big fan.
Yeah, that's the funniest part about it.
Like,
it's been out since May. We didn't know until they pointed it out.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's 11:29. It's already way too hot outside. And now Jay Harper has the news on Super Talk.
It is 11:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got sunshine, and it just keeps getting hotter. It's 88 degrees currently. A full forecast on the way. The Biden administration, they've set a deadline of today for Texas to get rid of those floating border barriers that they have placed in the Rio Grande at Eagle Pass.
The Mexican government plans to send a team of inspectors up to the Rio Grande for a first-hand look at the 1,000-foot string of buoys intended to keep people from entering the U.S. illegally. Mexico has suggested that the device violates a 70-year-old treaty between the two countries.
That's Jim Ryan in Dallas. Here in Middle Tennessee, a man charged with sexual exploitation of a minor was formerly in an authoritative role at Full Count Ministries in Hendersonville. Jacob Oldham, 40 years of age, has since been terminated from the board, the Full Count Board of Directors confirms. Oldham served as the executive director for Full Count Ministries, which uses baseball as an outlet for its preaching. And here in Nashville, a man accused of smashing the historic Metro Courthouse windows during 2020 riots across Nashville. He pled guilty today in the district attorney's office. The DA's office also confirms that Vincent Hamer pled guilty to a Class E felony, which could result in up to 2 years of incarceration. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? It's Chris Hand. We were talking about Jason Aldean a minute ago. Try that in a small town, and somebody did try that in a small town, and then a Georgia woman has been fired from her job at Lowe's because of it. So listen to this. This story is insane. There's a woman in Rincon, Georgia. She's been working at this Lowe's for 13 years. And she was fired from her job after she was brutally attacked by a group of thieves because she attempted to intervene to stop the robbery. I mean, we're seeing this all over the place. The shoplifting just getting insane. I mean, people walking out with grocery carts full of items from stores. And, you know, we're seeing it all over the internet. It's happening in California. It's happening in blue cities all over the place. Well, this Georgia woman saw a group of thieves trying to run out with a grocery cart full of power tools, I think it was. And she decided she'd had enough. So she grabbed the grocery cart to stop them. And these young kids assaulted her. This elderly woman, 68 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
Was punched in the face 3 times.
Wow.
And to add insult to injury, Lowe's fired her for it. 13 years of service, and Lowe's fired her. I mean, listen to this. It's insane. Donna Hansborough, 68, who worked at the Rincon Lowe's for 13 years, was fired from her post for violating the store's policy. According to police, 3 suspects entered the store, stocked their cart with around $2,000 worth of goods. While Hansborough attempted to stop the thieves by grabbing the cart as they ran for the store's exit, the suspects allegedly punched her in the face 3 times, leaving her with a black eye. Like, who could do that to a 68-year-old woman? Like, no amount of stuff that you're going to be shoplifting is worth assaulting a 68-year-old woman. That doesn't make you a tough guy. That's so soft. That's so soft. This is what she said. The guy decided he wanted to be let go, so he punched me and grabbed my glasses as I still held onto the cart. He punched me again and again, she tearfully added. The suspects have been identified, and investigators say that 2 out of the 3 thieves remain at large. Police are searching for a male suspect identified as Joseph Berry and a female suspect identified as Takaya Berry, who is his niece. Oh, so they keep it in the family. Shoplifting is now a family event. A male suspect identified as Jamar Lawton has been arrested and taken into custody. But this is where it gets awful. This is like awful. Because of Lowe's strict company policy that prevents employees from intervening with criminals, Hansborough was terminated after working at the store for 13 years. She worked in the gardening department. People in the town refer to her as the plant lady. What kind of a monster do you have to be to assault an elderly woman referred to as the plant lady? This is what she said. Donna Hansborough. They say if you see somebody stealing something out the door, not to pursue, not to go out. I just got tired of seeing things get out the door. I basically lost all the training, everything they tell you to do. I just lost it. I didn't expect to get terminated, maybe a reprimand or a suspension. I'm going to look for a new job. I can't sit at home. I'm not that type of person. This is so sad.
It's very sad.
This poor woman.
Try and do the right thing.
And she gets assaulted and fired for it. Detective Vance from the Rincon Police Department told the Herald that Hansborough suffered 2 traumatic events all at once, with being violently attacked and losing her job, her happiness, and her peace all at the same time. The lawlessness of the blue cities are coming to a neighborhood near you, my friends. And when you do the right thing, you get punished for it. This woman not only was assaulted by shoplifters, but she was also fired by Lowe's after 13 years. It's insane. I think it's systematic. People want to scare you into doing the right, like scare you out of doing the right thing. I mean, we're seeing that with Daniel Penny in New York City, the man who basically protected all of these people on a train from a violent madman who's hurling threats around. Daniel Penny put that man in a chokehold, subsequently killed him, and is now facing up to 15 years on second-degree manslaughter charges. Donna Hansbrough, luckily, no one was seriously injured. Nobody lost their lives, but she's also being punished. She's losing her job. They don't want you to step up and do the right thing. It's so sad. 615-737-9986. 3296 texted in and said, so per Lowe's policy, is it okay to shoplift? I'm heading there now. Keith texted in and said, Lowe's, let's do the Bud Light challenge. 1744 said, not saying it's right, but she did violate company policy. I will say this. The company policy said that not only do they want to protect their associates, but also their customers. Well, it's just like crazy, man. I cannot believe that Lowe's fired this poor old lady for trying to do the right thing. 2613 texted in and said, Home Depot it is, no more Lowe's.
But I bet Home Depot has a lot of the same policies. I mean, Target, Walmart, you walk out, you're not supposed to come after them.
How do you avoid this kind of stuff at big box stores these days?
Yeah.
It seems like no matter what store you're going to be at, you're going to run into some type of problem. But I never hear this kind of stuff at like a BJ's or a Costco or a Sam's Club. And I was talking with my wife, and you know why that is? Because you need a membership. And the membership roots out the riffraff. Because you can't shop there if you don't have a membership. If you're a guy that shoplifts power tools, you're not going to pay the $80 a year for a membership to one of those stores. But it's like, it's so sad because there's regular, everyday people that are becoming victims of this. I don't want everybody, I see a lot of super texts coming in and everybody's pretty upset about Lowe's saying like we shouldn't shop there until she gets her job back. And I think that's a great first step. But right now, what you can do, her friends have set up a GoFundMe for her. All you have to do is search Donna Hansbrough on GoFundMe, DONNA Hansbrough. And they've raised quite a bit of money for her. She's raised about $25,000 so far to, help get her through with rent and bills and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there is some light at the end of the tunnel. People in the community are stepping up. They are helping Donna Hansbrough after she was fired from Lowe's for trying to stop shoplifting and subsequently assaulted for it. But like, where do we go from here? The shoplifting has become so rampant that in California, they're basically anticipating a grocery store crisis. Grocery stores are leaving the area. It's unsustainable. If you go into a Walgreens and everything is locked up behind key and chain, what do you think the odds are of that store surviving? So you need an associate to walk you around the store to unlock everything as you need to buy it. So that would be one per customer. It's just not sustainable. They're not going to be able to afford all the employees to make up for those new policies at like a Walgreens. Lowe's is firing its own employees for trying to stop the shoplifting. Grocery stores are fleeing major cities. And we're going to get to a point where people are going to say, oh, it's all racist. Oh, you can't find a grocery store in a big city. I can't find anywhere to shop. But it's the policies that have led us here. They've decriminalized shoplifting in so many cities. They've basically encouraged it online. what do you think is going to happen? These companies aren't going to stick around for this much longer. And good people aren't going to stand up anymore. When you see somebody like Donna Hansbrough who tries to stop a shoplifter, not only does she get assaulted by some teenage boys, but then she gets fired. Good people are going to refuse to stand up at a certain point. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. 6436 texted in and said the big box stores all have the same policies. It's not shocking. 6242 texted in and said, why wasn't she just written up? Oh, the store's got to be woke. Eric texted in and said, it's easy for Lowe's to allow theft and pass the cost on to the consumer. Eric, I think you're right. It is easy for them to allow the theft, but you don't have to fire an elderly old lady who has worked there for 13 years after she's been assaulted for trying to do the right thing. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. 1119 texted in. I said something along the lines of, the membership stores will eventually start to weed out the riffraff. He made a good point, or she. You don't need a membership to go in Sam's Club, only to check out. So it's possible to shoplift at Sam's Club. My friend that works there says they have the same policies as Walmart. 1881 brings up a great point. Says it's going to affect us all because we are paying more at the grocery store in places that they don't have the shoplifting to cover the losses that they have in the areas that do have all the shoplifting. It's so true. All of this is going to affect all of us. But they're trying to criminalize good people standing up. They're trying to scare people away from standing up. It's what we saw with Daniel Penny on the subway in New York. It's what we're seeing with Donna Hansbrough at the Lowe's in Georgia.
So with grocery stores specifically then, or with, Lowe's, whatever kind of big box store we're discussing here, I mean, what is the solution then? I mean, because I'm just thinking myself as a corporate owner here. I'm Home Depot, I'm Lowe's. I can see where they're coming from. I don't want Donna Hansbrough getting punched in the face and having this come back on me and have my employees be getting hurt by thieves. I can't afford that either. So I don't really. You have someone with a gun at the end of the store?
I think that the only real solution is going to be privatized security at all of these stores.
That's it.
That's going to be the only cost-effective solution. And even then, you're going to run into a situation where there will be a situation between the privatized security and the criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be, unfortunately, it would lead to something where shots would be fired, and then it's just going to be a mess. There's no real way out of this unless you hold these people accountable for the crimes that they're doing. It's so sad. But again, Donna Hansbrough, who was fired after 13 years of service at Lowe's for trying to stop shoplifters, she's assaulted, punched in the face 3 times, and just fired. Let go. Goodbye. Thank you for your service. She does have a GoFundMe page up. Just search Donna Hansbrough, Hansbrough, Donna Hansbrough on GoFundMe. Some members of her community are raising money for her, and it's a good way to help out, even if you can only do $5, $10. Everybody. This is going to affect all of us. We should all be on the front line of this and helping where we can. The super text line is open, 615-737-9986 if you want to be a part of the conversation. It's not good news, but at least we're talking about it. At least we're not letting this just go. And, I don't know, man. I wish we had more answers. I wish we had more solutions for these issues. But until these stores pull out of these neighborhoods where this stuff is happening, nobody's really going to say anything about it. Unfortunately, it's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. I will tweet the GoFundMe link for Donna. So go to my Twitter or my X, whatever it is now, at Chris Hand on Air. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for being with me and chiming in on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. I'm joined by the one and the only, very sleepy Matt Murphy. Why are you so sleepy today?
Dragon, baby. Dragon tail.
Were you up all night or something?
I was up all night. I was on Red Eye Radio, which is a lot of fun.
Man.
A lot of fun. Talked to people up in northern PA. Got calls from all over the country. It was fun.
That's cool. So what does your sleep schedule look like when you're doing that?
I tried to get to bed yesterday afternoon. Could not do it.
Okay.
Just laid in bed for 3 hours. And I got home and got 3 hours of sleep before the show today. So we should be good. But I'm very excited. We have a mayoral candidate stopping by.
Ooh.
Yeah. Heidi Campbell.
All right.
Heidi going to stop by 1 o'clock.
You going to bring the heat?
I mean, I don't know what to say. It's one of those things where all you need to do is ask, well, what's your position on crime or homelessness, or what do you mean when you say affordable housing? I don't even know what that means. That means government assistance, and so you just throw that out there and just let them.
Affordable housing is one of those terms like, well, we'd all like affordable housing.
Well, right. Who doesn't want affordable housing?
That would be great.
It's a government term that doesn't really mean anything. So we've got that going on.
You mean the government says things that don't really mean anything?
It's, believe it or not, it's true.
I've only been here a short time at Super Talk, but I'm learning a lot.
I'm going to try to slip in. So just listen during our interview with Heidi. I'm going to try to get her to agree that "Try That in a Small Town" is a good song.
Ooh. All right, let's get her on record.
What are you shaking your head for?
Let's get her on record. I love it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Make sure you hang out with Matt. Don't forget, August 15th, J Street Korean Bar and Grill. Join us for Super Talk Live, 99.7 WTN.com.